What you can see here is the story of Zorrogre so far. On the left, the unmodded figure, and on the right, the figure that's been modded in the first 2 episodes. So this is where we take up the story today. On Zorrogre, we're going to give him a hat to go on the top of his head. And the style of hat that we're going to give him is this one. A bit like a cowboy hat, but as I've said before, with a Mexican influence. Essentially, you can see the classic drawing of Zorro here with that image on him. So we're going to make it in 2 parts. First of all, we're going to make the brim, and then we're going to make the top. But before we do that, let's give Zorro his mask. So we need to get that mask around his eyes. Okay, let's start. First, we're going to mix some green stuff. So we take 2 equal parts of both blue and yellow, mix them up well, and then place them on a tile. What you can see me doing now, and hopefully you can see the shimmer of the water, is I've put water so it doesn't stick to the brush, and I'm using the brush as a rolling pin. I'm then taking the head alongside the splodge of green stuff and then cutting out a piece that's roughly equal to what I need. And I'm going to roll that up into a ball, then flatten it and put it on his head a bit like a beret. Please forgive the state of my hands in this one, folks. I filmed this at the end of a day of modelling and painting and the rest, and my hands look in a right state. I hope it doesn't put you off the video. Next, you can see me watering my finger now and again, and I'm just spreading out the beret around his head. Now, if I was just doing a mask, I would probably put it in a band. I wouldn't spread it over his head, but that is roughly where I want the top of the mask to go. I then cut a strip out, and that is the bottom of the mask. The reason being is if you spread it over his eyes with the green stuff, there is no way that you're going to get that green stuff out of the eye details. So I place it underneath and use the silicone tool that I introduced in the last part of Zorrogre to smooth it round, and that's what you can see me doing. Across his nose, into the sides, and then making sure it's not round his eyes, or in his eyes. It is round his eyes. Okay, and you can see me smoothing both pieces together there, making sure that I'm not losing the detail. This step does take the longest out of all the steps for giving him his hat and his mask, because it's the one that people notice. People notice faces. You can see me working it around his ears there and pushing back the excess green stuff. If there's any that's too thick, I roll it. You can see that rolling action, and I'm rolling it to the back of his head. Now the thing with Zorro's mask is that he ties it at the back of his head, so I am not going to remove this excess green stuff. I'm just purely going to roll it to the back and use that to form the knot on the mask later. Here you can see me start to press in a bit of detail so that it looks like the material has been gathered together at the back of his head. Even taking care as I have, some green stuff has got into the detail, so I take a sharp blade or sharp piece of metal and I'm just gently working out that green stuff and then smoothing it out again. It's all about going over and over, taking time. I mean, what you see here is 3 times actual speed. Now, I was quite careful with the eyes. Some of it did get round his mouth because he is grimacing, this ogre, as ogres do. So you'll see me in a bit start to clear out, as well as his eyes, the top lip section, so that you can clearly see his mouth. I'm not using the drill to drill here. I'm purely using the drill to get rid of an awkward bit of green stuff that just didn't want to move. Here you can see me working at the bottom of the mask, smoothing it and making sure it's symmetrical across his cheekbones running up. If there's a bit of excess, I just give it a defined line with the craft knife and then just work it out. You can see every now and again the knife will disappear, and what I'm doing is using the edge of the tile to scrape the unwanted green stuff off. It's handy to have a tile to the side. Now you can see me start to work on the top lip, scraping away the green stuff as is unrequired. I am gently doing this, folks. I'm not pressing with the knife, because if you do, you'll cut the plastic underneath. And there you can see me working it around the top lip so that all his crooked teeth can show. This step you can see me just rolling the green stuff backwards and forwards, making it smooth so that it will appear like a mask, being very careful not to cover up the detail that I want to see through the green stuff. In real time, I've probably been working this green stuff now for about 5-6 minutes, and you can see it's starting to get stiff. Now I'm forming a shape that's roughly equal to the brim that I want the hat to be, and then I'm placing it down onto the green stuff that was already there, and I'm getting it nice and smooth. Now effectively it looks like one of those medieval Japanese fighting hats that you see. Not that they fought with the hat, they wore the hat when they went into battle. And then you can see me pushing it down on the edge to form a definition of where the brim will start as opposed to the upright of the hat. And then in a few moments you'll see me using that same tool to move up the brim to get a more defined angle. Here I'm just working around the edge of the brim, flattening it out and getting it to the right angle. Now my judgments are being made from looking at the front of the model or from edge on. What you're seeing here is the camera angle looking down, so you see the smoothing process but you can't see the angles that I'm choosing to work. When you come to do this yourself, it'll be obvious. Okay, so I mix up another ball this time, roughly to the right shape, and then I place it on top of the hat. And you can see the hat starting to look like the type of hat that we want. I'm just using the tool to gently press it down and smooth in the joint as it works around the edge, and you can see doing that. Now the secret to this, folks, is not to be in a rush. I'm using water so that it doesn't stick to the tool, but the more water you use, the less it sticks to other stuff. So I'm gradually just, you can see me there, pressing it down, working the two pieces together. Constantly reworking the brim so that it's to the appearance that I like, moving it up and down, thinning it out, smoothing it off, gradually working all the way around with the hat. Just to emphasize, folks, I don't add water to the mix, I just dip it in water so that it becomes less sticky to the tools and the fingers. If you put water in the mix, then you'll spoil your green stuff. Once I'm happy with the general shape of the hat, I'll then start marking the top feature where the hat sinks slightly into the top, and that's what I'm doing around the edge, going around with the sharp tool. Initially, I say sharp tool, the sharp silicone tool, just pressing it down so there's a bit of definition around the top of the hat. All I'm doing here, folks, It's just reworking what I've done so far. Everything I've explained, I'm just trying to refine the process. Give a band around the joint, you know, just indicating features which will make the painting easier later. Trying to get a more defined edge between the brim and the upright part of the hat. Once I'm happy with the shape of the hat, I then roll a worm, I call it a worm, long thin piece of green stuff, and I manipulate it into the shape of the Z for Zorro's trademark Z, and that is going to go, or Z as the Americans say, and that is going to go on his belly plate. That's why I picked the blank belly plate right at the beginning, and you can see me there manipulating it into the shape, cutting off the excess green stuff, and then just gradually working it down. Now I do want it to stand out from the belly plate. I want it to look like it's either been welded on there or beaten on there by an ogre with strength, trying to emulate Zorro, and it's just a case of working it so I get a consistent width and a style of font similar to the Z that you see in all the movies and magazines and comics. What I notice here, as I'm doing the brim, because the green stuff's settling and still moving, I am going to keep pushing the brim up as it goes round because, you know, gravity's taking effect and trying to draw it down. I also notice the lump at the top of the hat, and I'm going to spend quite a bit of time trying to push that down and remove that. You can be rougher with the green stuff the more it sets, but obviously you don't want to be too rough. At this stage it's still minor manipulation. Any serious stuff, let it dry and then use a file, which we'll be doing in the next video. Okay, there's Zorro, or Zorrogre, compared with our flag bearer from the initial one. You can see him, he's looking very different now. Hope you enjoyed this one, folks. Catch you again on the next.